Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. It's, almost done 2024. We're getting desperately close to 2025. And as we wrap up the episodes for this year, I just, again, want to say thank you for a great year. Thank you for being part of the show. If it's your first time here, you've got a lot to listen to. So over the break, over the holiday, if you're celebrating and you have time, there's, 361 episodes, plus all the Daily Daves and all that other stuff here on the How to Podcast series. There's a lot for you to listen to. So have at it. There you go. You got some homework over the holiday. And if you're thinking about starting a podcast, you're in the right spot. Thanks for being here. Thanks for pressing play. If somebody sent you here and said, oh, you got to go listen to the How to Podcast series, forget all those other podcasts about podcasting. Go to Dave. He's going to help you. And if they sent you here, thanks. You have a great friend who sent you here, and they deserve like some kind of special holiday gift. I don't know. Get them something. Maybe buy them a coffee. Oh, yeah, maybe. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this. I am looking at my 2025 and making some plans. I'm wondering if you're doing the same. Are you doing something different in 2025 than you have been doing so far with your podcast? For me, you'll notice that I don't do video. I do an audio podcast. Now, why do I do audio? If I only had one podcast, I don't, I have 8. If I had only one podcast, I could funnel all my time into one show. So I don't have the equity of time to create video for 8 different podcasts. It just doesn't work. And some of the podcasts that I do not lend themselves to a video version of a podcast, like the Daily Santa podcast, which is on right now. You can listen to it. It's a countdown to Christmas. So the Daily Santa podcast is all audio. There's music, there's sound effects, there's all kinds of stuff. But there's no way to do video on that show. It's impossible. Unless you want to see me talking into a mic with a Santa hat on. That's about all you're going to see. I basically would have to create a movie or a television show to capture the Daily Santa podcast. So that's kind of not going to happen for that show. But one thing that we hear in video podcasting world and in podcasting right now is if you don't do video, you are not a successful podcaster. And how dare you not do video? So I want to give a different take on video podcasting and share with you my plans for 2025 on what's coming up and what I'm going to play with in the new year around video and podcasting and how these all go together while still remaining an audio-first podcaster. So if this sounds like you, or you're a little bit curious, or you're just so done with the whole video thing, then we got some news and some things to share with you. For my plans for 2025, here we go. So what I'm seeing right now in podcasting is a debate between audio podcasters, traditional audio-first podcasters who just do an audio show. I say just, but they do an audio podcast and they send it out to Apple and Spotify and Audible and AfroPods and so on and so on. Audio's great. It goes with you anywhere. You don't have to look at a screen to engage with it. You can do something else at the same time that you're listening. Drive a car or play with your kids. There's 1,000 things you can do while you're listening to a podcast, which makes it easy. The file sizes are small. The editing is less time. There's more places for people to listen than to view video. There's a lot of advantages to audio podcasting. Is it going anywhere soon? Well, mine's not. I'm going to keep audio podcasting no matter what happens because it seems to be the easiest way to get a message out. Now, that being said, we have another side of podcasting that are staring us down going, well, you should be on video. And the best podcasters are on video. Now, there's levels of being on video. There is a full-blown television production studio with multiple cameras, a team of 50, excellent lighting, a studio that's built for the show. Like, that's one type of video podcasting, which It's probably not what you're planning on doing. Like, there is no way I have the money to do a full-blown video production of a podcast. But at the same time, as we do the How to Podcast series, I think that we don't talk about video enough here on the show. And that's something I wanted to focus in on 2025, is how we can at least address video in a meaningful way that will help your podcast. I find that you're either an audio person or a video person, but there's not a lot of people who are both and do them both well. So here's what I'm seeing that's in the comparison to a full-blown video television show that's a podcast. We also have people who just record their video from their interview, for example, on Zoom or Riverside, and it's just two faces talking into a microphone. Maybe they have headphones on, and they put it up on YouTube, and Spotify has video, and Apple as well has video. So they put it up on some of these players, and they think, that's it. There, I did it. I'm a video podcaster. The idea of watching two talking heads, just back and forth, question, answer, is not as engaging as what you would see on Netflix, for example, or on a movie. You wouldn't see the actors in the booth talking into a mic. You'll see the actual characters on the screen, especially like a Pixar movie. You're not seeing the actors in the booth with their headphones on, talking into a black microphone. You're watching the movie. The voice is just the background. So what I'm finding is people who just take the video footage and just throw it on YouTube and go, I'm done. I'm a video podcaster. I'm like, well, I would really love to see behind the scenes of your retention levels for those episodes. A 1 hour, 2 talking head, 3 talking head video, I would pretty well gamble and bet that you are not getting people coming to that episode on YouTube specifically and watching faces on a screen talking into a black microphones. You are not getting people viewing the entirety of your podcast. For being completely honest with me right now, you're getting people pressing play and then just kind of leaving. Now, congratulations. They press play. That counts as a view, which goes into your stats, which then you can sell to an advertiser and try to get money for your show. Yay! But when somebody's watching 1% of your podcast and 99% of your show, they don't see, they don't interact with, is that truly a win for you? Like, are you good with that? Can you sleep at night knowing that 1% of your efforts were rewarded? That feels sad. That really feels sad. So I'm thinking there's a different way that we can use video. If we want to remain an audio podcaster like I am, we can do the audio, but then we can do something on video that complements the podcast, but is not in effect the entire podcast. So instead of just throwing your Zoom recording onto YouTube and going, I'm a video podcaster, maybe there's something we could do better. So I've got a few ideas for you, some tools that people don't talk about. I'm going to talk about that at the end of this that I'm playing with, and the option to get together and chat about your plans and how we can work together to scope out your 2025. It's a great time to talk over the holiday season. We got some time in our calendar. Let's get together and chat about your plans for 2025. All that at the end, but let's jump into some ways that we can use video to complement our audio podcast the right way here in the How to Podcast series. So first, short form video clips. As an audio first podcaster, you can leverage video to supplement your podcast without simply just posting raw recordings on YouTube. This strategy of short form video clips could be a great addition to your audio focused podcast. What I'm encouraging you to do, and what you're going to start seeing more from this podcast, from me, is to create more bite-sized clips, 30, 60 seconds from your podcast episodes, highlighting key moments or insights. And here you can share these clips then on TikTok, on Instagram Reels. YouTube Shorts. And this will help you to reach new audiences and drive them to your full podcast, your audio podcast. So in these short form video clips, usually what people do is we'll take a little clip from their guest talking and put it out there. So that's pretty frequent. There's a lot of tools that'll do this for you. Some will do it automatically, and they randomly pick what the tool believes to be a key moment in your podcast. But you were there, so you probably know what was memorable. And what I like to do is when I'm doing the recording, if somebody says something like really cool, and we get into something really interesting, I can see on the screen my timestamp. Like right now, it's 10 minutes, 58 seconds. I would just write that down on my piece of paper because I always have a piece of paper in front of me while I'm talking to my guest. And then I know to come back to this moment, and there's something there that could be a potential clip. I'm doing it in real time. I'm not doing it after the fact because it's in the moment. It stuck with me. It resonated with me. So I just write it down on a timestamp. That's pretty straightforward, and anyone can do that. So please make notes while you're doing your recordings. Instead of using a random AI tool that may or may not pick the best moment from your podcast, you know your audience, you know your topic, you know your guest, and you know the conversation. Again, you were there. So write down the times as they happen. It makes it super easy after the fact to then go in and scrub through your content and pull out those juicy moments that you think your audience are going to fall in love with. So those short-term video clips, those are great. Again, you can then link back to the episode. You can link back to your guest. If it's a solo episode, you can record yourself as an audio podcast. I record into Audacity, but then at the same time, I pull up Zoom, throw on my camera, and just talk to the camera as if I'm talking to you. So I'm getting the video recording as a solo podcaster through Zoom in the moment at the same time. And this allows me to capture both at one shot. Really simple. And I can get my clips, again, writing them down as they happen so that I can come back later and pull them out in video or audio content. It's a great little tip. So use those short form video clips to bring people to the conversation. The next one is to use reflection videos as the podcaster. So what's a reflection video, Dave? That's basically so what did we learn? Okay, so Buddy comes on the podcast, Buddy shares his story. At the 12-minute, 35-second spot, Buddy shares this amazing thing that happened. I'm pulling that out, and I'm using that content to bring people to the podcast. That's one way. But if I then come on just me and say, hey, it's Dave. On the Dad Space podcast, Buddy was on the show and shared his story about being a dad and the struggle he had with his own postpartum depression. He was struggling as a dad. He couldn't find his place in this world. And he shares his story. So if you know a dad who's struggling right now, maybe they're a new dad, go check out what Buddy says. Here's the clip. Those kind of things are great because it's me face to camera. I'm talking to you. And it's just me doing a reflection about what happened in the show and sending people back to that episode with my thoughts about a key moment and why it resonated for me. These reflection videos can serve as teasers for upcoming episodes. You can do them in the moment. So even before the episode goes live, you can get on and go, oh guys, today I recorded an episode with Amy. She was awesome. We talked about this, this, and this. Watch for it coming up in next month. Amy's episode will be live, but what a great person. Go follow her here. That's it. Like, that's all you have to do. You can use your phone for this and record your thoughts as a reflection of what you've done and what's coming or what's been released. Your reflection videos mean a lot. Again, remember, your audience comes for the content. They stay for you. So the more they get of you, the more they're going to stay. So remember that. The other thing you could do is some visual enhancements that go along with the video when you release them. I like adding simple graphics, some text overlays, animations, that kind of stuff. B-roll is always great too. If it's the clip is going on and on, it's just one person talking, throwing in some things that change up what's on the screen. It engages your audience again to stay with it longer. Any of that B-roll is really great. There's some really great tools, again, we'll share at the end. There's some traditional tools that people like. I've tried them. I haven't really enjoyed the experience as much, so I've moved to some other tools that I recommend. Again, we'll talk about them at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. So adding these little graphics and things beyond just, again, throwing the Zoom recording onto YouTube and calling it a day, do some little work, dress it up a little bit, have it branded to your show, and it'll be a better experience for everybody. So use those visual enhancements. Again, stick around at the end. I'll tell you what I'm using. The next thing is to make sure then you're doing video for your audio podcast, that you're being platform specific with the content and how it's experienced on the platform. There's this whole belief in podcasting that if I just do record the podcast in video, again, say Zoom, for example, record it in Zoom, I can just plaster it everywhere. LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I just throw it everywhere. I don't do anything to it. I just throw it up there and I'm done. You're not going to get the same return if you just take one format and try to post it everywhere. Each of these platforms operate specific to their own platform and audience. So when you go to Pinterest, Pinterest is not YouTube and YouTube is not Pinterest. A Pinterest audience is different than a YouTube audience. A YouTube audience is different than a Audible format, for example, on Amazon. Everything has its own place and they work well. TikTok is formed one way, Instagram is formed another way. So as we create content, the idea of just one size fits all is a bad decision for you and your show. You're not going to get the same results because you're just taking one thing and trying to squeeze it into everything. The whole Cinderella thing, right? You have one glass slipper. It apparently only fits 1 foot in the entire kingdom, and everyone else tries to shove their foot into that shoe, and it doesn't work. Only one place, one format, one thing fit that shoe, 1 foot. And the idea that every foot can fit that shoe, no. So when you build your content, it's not that you have one piece of content and it fits everywhere. Your one piece of content fits best somewhere, and you need to alter it for all the other platforms. So create unique video content for YouTube that complements your podcast. For example, use question and answers, use extended interviews, or visual demonstrations of topics you've discussed in your audio episodes. That's a great tool. You can also develop YouTube-specific intro and outro that caters to the platform's audience and encourages subscribers to engage in your show. In a traditional audio format for our recordings, we have these amazing intros. They have music maybe. We talk about the show. We talk about what we're going to talk about on the show. We talk about our guest. We go over their LinkedIn bio. We talk about their book. We give our update on our week and how things have been with the cat and the story about dinner last night. And, oh, my kids did the thing again. You know, the kids did the thing. And all of this is a long intro. In an audio world, maybe we can get away with that. I would say cut it back a little. When we come to YouTube, if you try a 2-minute intro before you even get to the thing, I can guarantee you your audience is done. They're out of there. They are not going to stick around for 2 minutes of music at the beginning of a podcast with no words. Nope. They're gone. They are out of here. I would say, again, I'm not going to take one piece of content and just force it to YouTube and hope it does well. We're going to trim it up. We're going to have a new intro and a new outro specific for YouTube that we would not have in our audio podcast. They are not the same thing, everyone. So the idea that you simply can just put it there and it's going to do well, it's not. It's not going to do well because you're not working with the platform. You're trying to squeeze one piece of content into somebody else's format. It's not going to work. The glass shoe is not going to fit. You're not going to see a result. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to quit. So stop taking one piece of content and plastering it everywhere, hoping that it's going to be successful everywhere when you're not using the tools built into the platform. Develop a specific intro and outro just for YouTube and release a different version on that platform. Again, that's not just two talking heads. Try platform-specific content. Another thing I'm seeing in podcasting right now, kind of going back and forth with it for myself, but the whole idea of live streaming the podcast recording. So if you've ever thought of what it would be like to see somebody completely unedited. In podcasting, we have the joy of, in audio, we can have the joy of editing ourselves and taking out all the crap. The things where we got off track, we've said something dumb, we said the wrong word, whatever. We can take all that out, you would never know. Hopefully you're doing editing. In a live streaming setting, you get to see that person without any editing, and sometimes it's not very pretty. If you want to see distracted squirrels trying to create content in real time, go check out a live stream. You're going to see people trying to navigate the chat. You're going to see people trying to pull things up on screen. You're going to see people getting off topic every 5 sentences because they're chasing their own tail around trying to create content in real time to try to make it make sense. You're going to get every stumble, this, that, tangent. All these things are going to happen. And you're going to have the distraction of a chat feature where people are going to take you off topic. People are going to change the context of the show, get you on all these different rabbit holes. It is distracted squirrel theater as a live stream. And what the downside of a live stream is, people say, well, if I record a live stream, I'm just going to release it as an audio podcast and release it as a video afterwards, just as it is, unedited. Wow. Talk about not caring about your audience. As a listener to a video streamed podcast, you're going to hear on Joe Rogan, for example, hey, did everybody see that video where the guy fell down the hill? Yeah, bring that up. Show that video. Oh, look at him fall down the hill. Oh, look at that. Huh, did you see that? That was crazy. As an audio listener, I'm like, don't understand anything that just happened here. If you don't give me the link to go watch it later, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's what live streaming is. It's a distracted, disconnected conversation between maybe 1 or 2 people and a chat and all of these spinning plates when it generally ends up in a complete mess. So I'm not big on live streaming. Again, live streaming requires you to be there at a time and date. It's time and place recordings where people have these things called a life and a job and kids and dinner. And for them to give up that on a regular basis to be a part of your live stream, unless they're crazy super fans and this is all they got going on right now, live streaming is hard to fit into somebody's day. When was the last time you watched regular television? You know, where you have to be there at 7 o'clock on Thursday night to watch your show? No. So that just tells me if it's not happening in TV, I don't know the lifespan of live stream podcasting. It's great if you're a video game player, not so much as a podcaster. So I'm not a big fan. I've tried to listen to live streams, tried to participate, and I find I get bored because the host doesn't know where they're going. That's just my experience. If you're a great live streamer, awesome, send me your link. I'd love to come check it out. But for me, I do like the idea that you can communicate with your audience. I just don't like the distractions that come with it and the time and date recording. I have a life that I need to fit you into, and if the time and date doesn't work for me, I'm not going to be there. The next thing you can do is behind the scenes content. This is always interesting. So as you record your next podcast, I want you to just pause for a second and look around. What do you see? Okay, I see a mess. I see Dave needs to clean up. I am recording in my basement. I have a gas fireplace beside me, which is nice and toasty warm here in Canada in December. I have my wife put up some Christmas decorations, which apparently that's what we're doing here. So I have Christmas decorations. I have a bookshelf behind me with books from my Living the Next Chapter authors who kindly send me copies of their books. I have a guitar amp I haven't turned on in 6 months because I podcast too much. I have cardboard notes with scribbles on them from work of all these podcast ideas. There's probably 45 little pieces of cardboard all around. I have a rolled up bag of chips, half-drank can of pop. We call it pop in Canada, soda for our American friends. I have a candle going, and that's it. That's kind of people don't know what it's like to be a podcaster. If you have a podcast about podcasting, then they have an idea. But if you have a podcast for dads, possibly your listening audience, viewing audience, have no idea what goes on behind the scenes of your podcast. So if you can give them some of the behind the scenes content of your recording, share snippets of what you do and how you do it, I think that people would be interested from a non-podcaster point of view on how you do this thing. Like, they don't even know what a podcast, how it's done. And for you, it's just second nature. I get in, I turn my computer on, I hit record, here we go. Your audience doesn't understand the work that goes on behind the scenes of a podcast. So any behind the scenes content that you can provide, I think, can help your audience to grow and to get a little insight to who you are and see the real you. So don't be afraid to show some of that behind the scenes content. I think your audience would love it. I like watching those videos on how things are made. I like to watch somebody build their own cabin. I like to watch somebody do a task from A to Z. I love this whole process of watching them do this thing and seeing it happen in real time. That's really fun. So maybe showing some behind the scenes content in addition to your audio podcast could bring more people to your show. The other thing you can do is repurpose your content. The idea of taking an audio podcast and releasing it to the world is great. If that's what you can do with the time you have, then do that and do that well. And don't feel obligated to do more. If you can do more based on your calendar, your schedule, your commitments, great. But don't feel like audio podcasting on its own is the worst thing you can do. It's not. And many people are doing audio podcasts for a long time and been very successful with no video, nothing else, just the audio. So if you're starting out and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, just as we talk about video, you're like, oh no, do I really got to do that? No, there's no rules in podcasting. I listened to a podcaster who podcasts about podcasting, and he has rules for you to follow. He has a rule for this and a rule for that and a rule for this and a rule for that. Everything with him is a rule. And there's one thing that I like to say about rules in podcasting: there are none. So really, he has nothing to say because there are no rules in podcasting. You do not have to do anything. You just be a podcaster, which can simply be hitting record, putting an audio podcast out there, and be happy with it. You do not have to feel like you're a second-class podcaster if you don't have video components. When you have time, though, video can bring more people to you who may have never heard of you and may have never pressed play on your audio podcast. The idea of doing video can complement. The other thing you can do, though, in addition to video with your content, is try to repurpose it into different formats beyond video. So the idea of words, you're speaking words, I'm speaking words right now, these words then could be taken and turned into an article about the topic you just talked about. And maybe that article would do well on, say, LinkedIn, where somebody would read your article and could lead them back to the podcast. Not a transcript, not word for word what I said on my show, but the big idea expanded with some links and just a recap and writing it out might be a great way for your audience to interact with you beyond the podcast. It's not just about the podcast, it's about how you can get the information out to the world in all these different formats. I like a three-pronged approach to podcasting: an audio component, a video component, and a written component. These three things, sound, video, and words, combined together, help you to reach audiences that if you did only one, you could not reach. For example, if you write a blog or an article, I can't listen to it in the car. So anything you can do to combine those three: words, audio, and video, I think will bring more people to you in your content. So transform your podcast episodes into essays. You can do it video-wise or through a written article. You can have all kinds of different things that will feed people back to your show just by repurposing your content. So take your transcription, take your show notes, and then expand on them into a written document. That might be a great way to reach more people. And it could become the source of a new book idea. There's a lot of different things could happen with that. By creating platform-specific video content, again, content designed for the video platform. So TikTok is one way and YouTube is a different way. So don't try to do one thing that's going to be for both. Do one thing really well. As you do that, it's going to complement your audio podcast. You can engage with your audience across different platforms while maintaining your audio-first approach. So this strategy that I'm using allows you to tap into the growing video podcasting trend without compromising the core audio experience of your show. So what are some of the tools that I'm using right now? What have I tried and what am I migrating to for 2025? Well, here's kind of a list. So I have clients that I work with that use Riverside. I have clients that I work with use Descript. These are all platforms that are out there. There are usually a monthly fee for these to use these programs. There's a lot of tools. There's probably 10 new tools since the time I recorded this episode and the time you've heard it. So to name them all is impossible. Some of them are going to disappear as well. But some of them that I'm working with right now, first one, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, is I record in Zoom, and people are like, oh, that's terrible. But Zoom is probably the most recognized and most accepted non-techie platform for my guests. So instead of making them jump through hoops and do things they don't feel comfortable doing, I just go to Zoom and then I fix the audio. I always pre-interview, so I know exactly what I'm getting into. And that's the power of doing a pre-interview. You can hear and see them and go, oh, wow, this is going to be a challenge. So you can address it right there with them before you hit record. So that's a definite bonus to pre-interviews. But one thing I'm doing with Zoom is I'm using their summary feature. If you look at the bottom down where you have all your toolbar at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the record button somewhere in the middle of the screen. And just next to it, to the right of it, at the time of recording, there's a little summary button. This summary button allows Zoom to kind of capture the content of what's been going on. It will give you your takeaways. It will give you your action items. It'll do summaries. It'll do things in groupings. If you mention a website, so if I say howtopodcast.ca, it'll actually create a clickable link for it in the summary. It is crazy. And it'll send you back a summary of what you talked about. I use that as the basis for my show notes because it's a real representation of what happened in the interview. Or if I'm recording solo, I still use it and I use that as the basis for my show notes. As well, I could also then repurpose those show notes, that information, throw it into something like Perplexity. That's what I love the most. People love ChatGPT, but I like Perplexity. Throw it into there and put it into an article format, and then take it and then rework it yourself into what works well. Those are your words. So I'm good with my words being given back to me in a different format and then using it as a way to write. So that's one way if you want to start creating articles and blog posts or whatever you want to do, then use that. That's a great tool. So Zoom, the summary feature just next to the record button, try it on your next recording and see what you get. I think you might be happy with it. So I like Zoom for that. That's one tool that I'm using to get show notes better, to get ideas captured from it without having to take notes. Super great tool. Again, whether you have an interview or solo, try the summary feature. It's great. Another one that I'm using right now is I'm a big fan of storyblocks.com. Storyblocks is where I get the music for my shows. I get sound effects. They have video. They have B-roll. They have images. They have so many amazing things there. I use it all the time. Big fan. I do love their terms of service in terms of use. It's great. I would really recommend this one over any other place. They do allow you to have all these assets that are yours for your time with them as you pay them monthly. And all your stuff is covered into the past. Every time you've used it in the past, it's covered. If you decide to stop using Storyblocks, you just can't use the assets going forward. That's how it works. But one thing they have now that I love is some new tools around video editing. So again, we talked about Riverside has video editing. Descript has video editing. Storyblocks is adding more great tools to their platform, allowing you to do some video editing. So you're going to see stuff coming from me on Instagram, YouTube, a lot of other stuff, and these are going to be edited in Storyblocks. I've been using other programs as well, and I just love Storyblocks for what they offer me already, for music and everything else, but now I'm going to play with their video editor, which is built right into my monthly plan. So it's already there. I can upload my own video footage. I can alter the ratio. So if it's going to be like television size, 16 by 9, if it's going to be like TikTok, kind of upright phone screen size, I can do Instagram squares, all the different things. So that's a great tool. So I'm playing with it right now. Again, I can bring in video clips from the Storyblocks library into the actual thing that I'm working on as I'm working on the project. Super cool. Again, upload my own audio, upload my own images, work with the text. I can do all kinds of things, overlays. Again, all through storyblocks.com. It's really cool. It's called Maker, and it's relatively new. So if you're interested, go check it out. Go to YouTube, and you can see videos of it. It's great. Storyblocks.com. And this is the Maker option within Storyblocks. I do love Canva as well, which I use all the time. The howtopodcast.ca website currently is built on Canva. So that's a website completely designed within Canva, hosted through GoDaddy, connected to my Canva site. And that's my website that you're seeing when you go to howtopodcast.ca, right in Canva. So all that moving stuff, all those things that are happening, all in Canva. Can jump in there anytime, change a picture, update anything, do anything I want, anytime I want, and just hit upload and it's done. Boom. It's so easy. So if you don't like all those other hard to use website builders, grab a domain at GoDaddy.com, for example. It's like $15 a year for me for my howtopodcast.ca website. And then just go to Canva, build your website there, connect the two, you're done. So if you don't know how to do that, reach out to me. I'd love to help you. So Canva's great. I use it for all my YouTube thumbnails. I use it for all my social media assets. So that's going to be working alongside Storyblocks Maker platform. And yeah, and then the other thing I guess I would use probably most often, tool-wise, would be my Audacity for audio recording. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I really need for my show. So I'm going to be working on more video content for my podcast, more screen time, more Dave talking to you one-on-one. That's going to be coming through my Instagram as well. I'm on Threads and all those other places. So I'm going to be working hard this coming year in 2025 to expand the video components of my podcast. I'm still an audio podcaster. The majority of my time and effort will be focused on audio. That's where I'm going with my show. I am going to pepper in little video stuffs here and there, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what your plans are for your show in 2025. Are you just an audio podcaster? Are you just a video podcaster? Are you both? Where are you struggling? What are you going to do? What are you going to stop doing in 2025? And to hear your thoughts about your podcast, I'm really excited and curious to find out your thoughts and your plans, because it's going to help me do my plans as well when I hear what you're working on. howtopodcast.ca. And again, if you haven't been on the show as a guest co-host, I would love, love, love to have you here to talk about your podcast journey. Head over to howtopodcast.ca, click on the calendar link, send me a note. I'd love to have you on as a guest co-host to talk about your show and talk about your journey as a podcaster. And between you and I, we can help another podcaster to avoid some of the pitfalls and to learn from our mistakes and from our successes as we get together and talk podcasting together, you and I. howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for listening. As we look forward to 2025, excited to see where we're all going in our podcast journey. If you need any help at all, howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for listening. We'll talk soon. Maybe I'll catch you on video. Take care. So I get asked quite often, usually at the end of a podcast, like right now, Dave, how can we help you? Like, how can we, as a listener, like, support the show? Can we come rake your leaves? Can we cut the grass, shovel the snow? Well, Watch your dog? Help you move? What can we do? Clean your dishes? Oh, that'd be interesting. Well, if you can't do that because, you're in Poland, maybe you can help us by supporting us with our Buy Me a Coffee. It's right there on our website. And, it just will help us to, A, stay fueled because, we drink a lot of coffee around here. And it helps the show. So if you want to help us, it's out of the goodness of your heart. I can tell you that listening to the podcast to this point, you've already helped us so much. But I do have people saying, Dave, I'd love to give back something small, even just to the show. Buy Me a Coffee link is on our website, ahadapodcast.ca. And you can support the show that way. It would mean a lot to have you on our team supporting what we do here. If you find value in the show, then that's great. Share the show, tell somebody about it. And when somebody says, Dave, I want to start a podcast, who should I check out? Oh, you should go check out the How to Podcast series because of all the great co-hosts and all the things that happen here, the meetups, everything. And I would appreciate that. And then fill our cup once in a while if you can. But again, thank you so much for being here and supporting the How to Podcast series. Take care. Talk soon.